Hello you all, I'm BlaqueWitchYaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. So in a previous video, I mentioned I had a story about the dangers of taking items away from a tombstone, gravesite, basically taking anything from the dead. And this is one of the stories. Now I have two. This one is a cute, sweet one with a happy ending. The other one, not so much. But I wanted to tell this story to cleanse the palate a little bit. I know we've been doing a lot of voodoo, true crime, a lot of haunted plantations, but I wanted to share this story, and I'm grateful to Benjamin and Kiana for sharing this story because this shows what happens when you pay attention and you obey spirit ahead of time. It can save you a lot of consequence. So let's talk about Benjamin. And Benjamin is someone we can refer to as a mama's boy, but not the type of mama's boy that's annoying where they can't make a single move without calling their mom first, or anytime they're in an argument with their spouse they have to call their mama. This is a type of mama's boy that really just shares and appreciates the role that his single mother played throughout his life growing up. For every soccer game or cheesy play he did in school, his mama was right there on the sideline. That's my baby. Tell him. Doing the whole thing. And this beautiful woman, her friends and family call her Juki. So throughout this story, we will be calling her Miss Juki. So Miss Juki is described as very loud and very vibrant. She's known to talk people's ears off. She has the memory of an elephant, so she could tell you stories going way back in the day about all her little cousins, nieces, and nephews, and especially Benjamin. So at the family reunion, she was the star of the show. Everyone wanted to circle around her to get all the tea on everyone when they were little. But then eventually you start to see everyone stretching, kind of giving signals to head to the door, because she will continue talking, because one laugh too many, one testimony too many, she's going to continue on with another story. But everyone loved her for that. But in 2019, the fond experience of hearing his mother's stories, or feeling her nice hugs, or eating her good food would soon become a memory, because on April 6th, Benjamin lost his mother at the age of 82. Benjamin understood, and sometimes he felt guilty of how sad and the grief he was experiencing with his mother, because on one hand he's thinking, well, she lived until she was 82, she didn't have any sicknesses, she died of natural causes. But on the other hand, it's his mama. He want one more hour, one more day, or even like a quick conversation more with his mom. But eventually he had to snap back into reality because his bereavement period at work was over. So everyone at work took it easy on Benjamin because they knew how hard he would take this loss. And hell, they were experiencing a loss too, because at every work potluck, they would look forward to Miss Juki meal. She would show up to work with pans and pans of food when you were just supposed to bring one dish, her famous but secret recipes that she had for different dishes. So they were like, damn, if we knew the last potluck was going to be our last one with her, we would have talked to her more. We would have took an extra plate home. We would have hugged her and thanked her for her pound cake some more. So they were experiencing the loss as well. But his co-workers decided to just give him some peace and quiet. They didn't badger him much. It's sales, so constantly everyone's knocking at your door for something. So they just took it easy on him. They knew those 7 days he had off would not be enough for the 48 years he had with his mother. But there was one person at work who knew exactly how to cheer Benjamin up. We will refer to her in this story as Kiana, but we will also refer to her as Benjamin's work wife. Y'all got one of them, a work wife, a work husband? And Kiana's one of us. She's a spiritual girl. She knows all the things of the things. She's known to randomly give out crystals at work. Like, hey, I was at the crystal shop and I saw this amethyst and it made me think of that beautiful dress you wore. And I know you're a little stressed about. Like, she's known to just give out random spiritual gifts to people. She has all these crystals and symbols lined up on her desk, and you can always smell a slight scent of patchouli coming from her office from burning incense, which she's not supposed to do, but she does it anyway. You can burn some incense too by getting yours at BlaqueWitchYaya.com. I got Go Away Evil, I got Protection, I got Love and Sex, I got Fairy Dreams, let me look at my inventory. What else we got? We got Money Drum, we got Open Roads, we got a whole bunch. So if you want to be like Kiana and be like Yaya, get you some incense, okay? But don't burn them at work, because you're not supposed to do that. Kiana made her way to Benjamin's office just to make sure he was at least getting through the day. So she went over to his office, knocked on the door, and as soon as Benjamin made eye contact with her, he just started to bawl, because no one else in the office understood the connection he had with his mom more than Kiana. Like I said, that was his work wife, so she gets all the tea, all the information. She knows everything. So Kiana just held him, rocking him side to side, letting him get all his tears out. Didn't even stress him about what's wrong. Talk to me. Just let him cry. Also, he was crying as well because he knew how much his mom loved Kiana. Miss Juki did not play about Kiana. Like I said, when she come to the potluck, bring everybody food, Kiana getting her own special dish to go home. No, she didn't want Kiana eating off of the pots and pans that everybody else eats. She made a special dish just for her. His mother would constantly like nudge at him like, okay, you know, she a nice girl. She's cute. Got a good head on her shoulders, you know. When you gonna start dating her? When you gonna, you know, make it official? Ask her out on a date. You never seen her outside the workplace. You know how mothers do when they see a future daughter-in-law. But Benjamin was always shy and never did it, never made a move. So he was also feeling guilty like, damn, I do like Kiana. And one day if I do marry her, now she's not gonna be able to go to the wedding. And she's the one that first told me that Kiana would be my wife one day. So he was experiencing all that guilt because he knows like my mom is gonna miss these next phases of my life. So he's feeling all of these emotions, and once he was able to gather himself, he explained to Kiana like, my mom is going to miss the next phase of my life. I know I'm almost 50 and I'm sitting up here crying about my mom, but I just have so many more questions. I have so many more things I want to accomplish that I want her to be there for. I just want to have one more conversation with her. Who am I going to talk to on my way home? Like, I'm missing a chunk of my life. Like, I have no more contact with her. So Kiana, being one of us, she says, well, I know you're not completely into this, but to me, you didn't lose contact with her completely. I mean, in the physical world, but you can still talk to her in the spiritual world. And Benjamin's trying to appreciate the help that she's giving, but then again, in the back of his head, he's like, okay, I'm grieving about my mom, and you up here talking about Casper the ghost going to appear as my mom and talk to me like that. He didn't want to hear it, but he was appreciative that she was helping. So he was like, okay, Miss Cleo, what else can you tell me? How am I going to talk to her in a spiritual sense? He fully doesn't understand what Kiana does at this time, but he respects it. So he just lets her continue and explain it because it may be something that could actually be helpful. And so Kiana's like, well, you don't do anything special. You just talk to her as if she's in front of you because she's always going to be around you. So you can say, hey, mom, had a stressful day at work, and just let it out. Speak to her as if she's in front of you. And she starts to laugh because she could see Benjamin's face like, because to someone who's not into it, I get how it can sound crazy. Like, okay, you just talk to them because they're there. And Benjamin's like, yes, okay. And then Kiana asks, well, have you been back to her gravesite yet? And Benjamin says no. He feels like sitting down and reading the tombstone would make it feel real. Seeing her officially in the ground would make it feel real. So he hasn't been back yet. I mean, every time I go home, I try to get my mind off of it. But as soon as I open the door, I'm smacked in the face with dozens and dozens of flowers and get well, sorry for your loss cards. It's just, I need to get rid of all of it. Then Kiana says, well, whenever you find strength to go back to the gravesite, hopefully it's soon, because you can take some of those or all of those flowers that you have, bring it to the gravesite, put it on her tombstone and begin talking to her. Or just bring something that she likes. Make sure you just bring something with you. Never go into a graveyard empty-handed. The spirits like gifts. So surprisingly, Benjamin actually did it. The next day, he woke up a few hours early before work. He made his way to the graveyard to visit his mother. So he began walking down the graveyard, and of course he's scared, so he kept getting chills, and he put his hand in his pocket. Then when he realized he put his hands in his pockets, his hands were empty. He forgot to bring the flowers. He forgot to bring some wine or anything that she likes. He came to the graveyard empty-handed. He's like, damn it, Kiana just told me not to come here empty-handed. He's looking in his pocket to see, does he have some cash on him? But he has nothing. So he was like, well, maybe I'll just make this first visit and I owe you, and I'll make sure I bring double next time. So he begins walking to his mother's burial site, but then he notices right across there is a fresh dozen roses sitting across from his mother's burial site. So he's like, okay, my mama must already be talking to me. She must have known that I was going to forget the flowers, so she made sure that someone was right here. So let me grab these. He walked on over. He placed them on his mother's gravesite, and he began talking to her for an hour. He just was crying. He was yelling. He was getting pissed, but then he was laughing because he was thinking about memories. He didn't know what topic to stay on. He was just letting the words come out just because he felt like this was the last conversation that he wanted with his mother for so long. So he was just talking. So at the end of the conversation, he was like, thank you for the flowers. I know I was supposed to bring you something, but you brought me. You must have known I was forgetful. I mean, I brought myself. I'm about 250, so hopefully I'm a presents enough, but I know you wanted something. I know you like that cheap wine. I should have brought you the cheap wine. Well, I'll make sure I bring something next time. I'm not sure if you're about to do a trick or something. You're about to start floating. Is the ground going to start shaking? Am I going to feel a hand on my shoulder? Well, thank you, Mom. I'll be back. So he's just blabbering because he's like, okay, I'm talking to a spirit. Do the spirit know me? I'm here. Am I talking to myself? He's going through that weird phase, kind of like when we first started communicating with our spirit guys. It's kind of like, all right, can you like drop a pin or something so I know that you on a line? Like, so Benjamin made his way to work, clocked in, I say clock in, I guess walk in the building. Who really clocks in nowadays? But he made well, no, he probably was clocking in because it was sales. So they do a little boop with their badge. Anywho, Benjamin made his way to work, sat down at his desk, and started going through his emails. He's still behind on emails from his time off, but he sees one email that stands out. Maxwell. And I'm going to call them Maxwell, but just know for this company, this was a very big client that you'll see. Just know this was a very big client, and the email was sitting right at his desk that came in 3 minutes before he walked in. So immediately he skipped the old emails and he went right to the new one. And basically it was Maxwell saying like, hey, I'm looking for this and this for, I can't go into detail. You're going to know the company he works for, but he was looking for some supplies for a contract that he had, which would last over a few years. So this was a very big deal. And he was like propositioning the email, like, let me know you got it and we can move on. I'm trying to hurry up and get this done. He's like, listen, I had another deal, but it just didn't feel right. So just let me know when we can make this final so we can get the move on it. He's like being rushy. So Benjamin's like, okay, yeah, he did his little salesman thing, I guess, whatever you send over for them to fill out, whatever. So he did all that. So at this job, they have this portal where like when the salespeople make contact with the client, they have to put it in the system so everybody in that building knows like, hey, don't reach out to them. I already got something in the works. I got them. Don't try to take my client. This is mine. I already touched base. I have something, So he put it in the portal. He pressed save. And usually if someone already touched base with that client or made contact, it will come up as an error because that contract or that deal has already been claimed by someone. I don't know the sales terms. So no error came up. So that means no one touched base with him. So he's like, what in the hell? No one contacted him. He contacted me and already acted like he just want to write out a check immediately. And this was a big deal. So once he pressed save, everyone in the building gets an email saying that there was an update to that specific portal. So everyone's thinking like, okay, there has been an update. We see Maxwell. Who is this? And they see that it's Benjamin because everyone in that building has been trying to go after the Maxwell client because it's a big deal. So everyone's been trying to make contact with him, but the furthest they get is just the front desk girl saying, okay, we'll have him call you back. But Benjamin actually has the deal in progress. So everyone in the building is like, oh, congratulations. We're so happy for you. Oh, that's so nice. And he just reached out to you, huh? Oh my God. Ooh, yay. Doing all that fake congratulatory stuff. And so Benjamin makes his way to Kiana's office and he's like, look, your little witchcraft worked. One little visit to my mom and look, not Benjamin no more. I'm Bill Gates. Because this deal was going to be $500,000. I don't know the commission on that, but it was a lot of money, I'm assuming. So he's happy. So Kiana's like, oh my gosh, you visit her? How did it go? So he explained everything to her. I didn't really feel her, but I felt like someone was listening. My words didn't fall on deaf ears. So of course, Kiana's happy because he's actually starting to communicate with his mother in the spiritual world, which is something that she didn't think he would ever do. And second, and most importantly, which I'm sure we're all surprised at, someone took our spiritual advice. How many times have you given spiritual advice to people like, girl, trust me, just do this and it's going to work. And they're just like, I don't know. And the solution can be so simple, but they're like, I don't know. I don't play with candles, girl. Girl, I don't know nothing about them incense. Oh, no, girl, I don't play with the dead. They do all these excuses and you're like, just please try it. And I promise you it'll work. But he actually just took one time and he actually did it. So Kiana's like, okay, then it makes you feel appreciated too as a friend, giving out spiritual advice and actually seeing that it's helping your friend. So it's kind of like, okay, cool. I can start giving you more spiritual advice when you need it because I see that you actually take action. Because I can't tell you the amount of times I told someone, listen, just go get a cleansing. Go to this person. Get a cleansing. I promise you it'll help. And they're like, I don't know, girl, I worked late that day. And you know what? I got to go pick up my kids and they'll make every excuse. But if it was for something else, they'll stop, drop, and roll to do it. Anywho, back to the story. So a few days have passed and Benjamin is getting a new visitor in his office by the name of Steven. Steven goes to his office and says, hey buddy, I see you got the Maxwell contract. Those real fake employees that try to act all friendly just to get some information. So he's like, oh, I see you got the Maxwell contract. How did that happen? Let me tell you, I've been showing up to his kids' games. I've been picking up his coffee, been taking him out to lunch. None of that worked. And Benjamin's thinking, you've been in contact with him this entire time and you didn't put it in the portal? I would have never agreed to it if I knew you were already in the works with something. And Steven's like, well, I wasn't in the works. So, I was just trying to warm him up a bit before I just started dropping numbers at him. But I didn't want to put in the portal because I didn't want to make it official yet. I've been behind on sales for these past few months. So I just knew that contract would just take me over and make up for my slack so I could meet the goal for next quarter. And Benjamin's like, well, I wish you would have put it in the portal. I'm sorry, dude, but thank you. And Steven's like, yeah, I know how it is. So Steven walks out. He goes to the break room and he's talking to another employee. He's not that important. He's talking to another employee. He's like, bro, can you believe it? I told you I've been talking to Maxwell this long. Now he wants to play dumb like he didn't know I was in contact with Maxwell this entire time. It wasn't a secret, but if you know me, you know what I have up my sleeve. And so he's up there saying that Benjamin stole his contract. Oh, he must be grieving, but everyone's going to baby him because he just lost his mother, but now he's being sneaky and playing dirty. So he's just saying all this stuff, but Kiana right at the door listening. So once Kiana got all the information, she went back over to Benjamin and was like, she's like, Benjamin, Steven in the break room telling everybody that you stole his client. And Benjamin was like, I just talked to him. He told me that he was taking him out to lunch, but he didn't put it in the portal. And Kiana was like, exactly. How are we supposed to know who you're talking to every single day? We make a bunch of cold calls. Who do we know who's who? And so Benjamin's like, I didn't steal it. If I knew it was his, I wouldn't have took it. Kiana was like, yes, you would have, because if it's not in that portal, then it's not official. And so Benjamin was like, you right. So why is he up here saying that I'm taking his client? So they're doing a whole, back and forth. Who do you think he is? But Kiana's like, yeah, he's going around telling everyone that you just stole his contract. You stole this, you stole that, you stole his money, blah, 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 blah. Where Benjamin was like, well, everyone knows it wasn't in the portals. So he didn't follow protocol. So once Kiana leaves, Benjamin is thinking, wow, I talked to my mom a few days ago, had a $500,000 deal sitting right in my email, and now I'm finding out who the snakes are. My mama is already in the works. So now Benjamin is officially a witch. Kind of, sort of. That's how he feels. He feels like, okay, I know how this spiritual thing works. My mom is in the works. She has me a deal on the table. She's protecting me from people. So Kiana says when spirit do stuff, you do stuff for them. So let me go get her some more roses. Let me go buy them this time so she knows they're directly from me. So Benjamin is rushing after work to go to the market. He finds some roses. He picks them up. He goes to self-checkout. He scans it. Boop. He pays for it, start making his way out the door. Then the little boo, 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 or whatever sound it. The burr, burr. Wait, what's the right sound effect? Woo, woo, burr, 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 burr. No, like, burr, burr. I guess it's more like that. The little sound that goes off when you need to scan something. So the manager makes his way over to him and like, hey, what's going on? So Benjamin's thinking like, oh, it must be a mistake. It must be something in the roses because I just paid for it. The manager's like, no problem. Let me see your receipt. Benjamin hands him the receipt. The manager looks at the receipt and sees that, well, you only paid for 1 dozen roses. You have 2 dozen in your hand. So Benjamin looks at his hand and he realizes he picked up 2 dozen roses and the roses were just clumped onto each other. So he picked it up thinking it was 1. He's like, oh, my bad. Oh, they're all stuck up here. Let me do it. My bad. I didn't mean to. And the manager's like, sure, just be careful next time. And so the man made Benjamin feel all weird about it, like he was trying to steal. So he was like, bro, it was a mistake. He saw they were stuck together. But anywho, that wasn't important. He was making his way to the gravesite to visit his mom, sat down, got comfortable, and began having a conversation with his mother. So that night, Benjamin goes home, goes to sleep, and he has a dream of his mother. She's wearing a beautiful white gown, almost translucent. He could see her body through it, but it just felt like a shadow. She just looked real angelic. And she says, thank you, baby, for my flowers. I love them. And she faded away. And the dream was so clear that it literally scared him out of his sleep. He couldn't go back to sleep. He ended up getting ready for work early, sat down and waited until it was time to leave. Goes to work, goes straight to who office? Kiana, and he tells Kiana, like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I had a dream last night of my mom. She said thank you for the flowers. I'm not sure why she said thank you for this one but not for the first one, but I guess I'm getting a stronger spiritual connection, so now she feels safe to talk to me directly, maybe because she know I'm not scared anymore. But I was happy to see her. Isn't that crazy? So he's all excited, he's talking, Kiana's taking it all in. She's proud of him because now he's beginning to get open to spirit. Let's fast forward to a week later. I know y'all see a theme that may be starting to go on, but Benjamin is driving home from work. He gets pulled over, and of course he's anxious because unfortunately being pulled over by a cop is a life or death experience and a fear that we have. So he gets pulled over. He's trying to figure out, was I speeding? Is my tail light out? Like, what's going on? So the police officer comes to his car, asks for his license and registration. He picks up his license and registration. I guess he does his little typey thing in his car. He walks back up to Benjamin and says, my apologies, it must be a mix-up in the system. And Benjamin's thinking, what was the mix-up? Of course, he's like nervously asking because he feel like he should just drive off and not ask questions, but he is curious about what was this mix-up. And he was like, oh, I ran your tag, but it came up to a different car, but I see your registration matches your insurance and everything. So it was my fault. I must have mistyped something. And Benjamin's like, okay, no problem. And then he drives off and he's cursing the cop out in his head. Like, did this motherfucker really just think I stole a license plate? Did he just want to pull me over for something thinking I had something in my car? So going through all that, he calls Kiana and he tells Kiana, like, listen, I just got pulled over. He thought I stole a license plate, said it didn't match my car, but then he ran everything and he saw it. I'm thinking he was just searching to see that I have a warrant out. He just probably saw a big black man in a car. So he's going down that whole rabbit hole, which I understand, but he does make it home safe. So the next day at work, of course, the work husband and the work wife are going to touch bases, and Benjamin is still a little shaken up from being pulled over. So he's venting to Kiana. He was like, I don't know what it is lately, but I feel like everyone thinks I'm a thief. And of course, we probably already noticed this trend, but he was like, I don't know what it is. People are accusing me of stealing clients, stealing flowers, stealing a license plate. I'm a good guy. I'm not sure if I'm just being a little reckless nowadays because I'm grieving and maybe I'm not paying attention as closely as I should, but I don't know what's going on. And of course, Kiana wants to know what's going on as well. So Kiana's like, well, if you don't mind, I have some tarot cards in my drawer here. I could just pull a few just to see what's the energy like. So Kiana's excited because she already know he's talking to spirit. He's getting messages from spirit. Let's throw some cards on him. Let's really have him dive in. So Benjamin's like, yes, Kiana, please pull your cards. Let me know what's going on. He's being sarcastic. So Kiana's excited. So she's like, perfect. She reaches for her cards. But before she even shuffles them, she asks, Benjamin, you said your mom thanked you for the flowers the second time, but not the first, right? That was a little odd to you? Benjamin was like, well, it wasn't really odd. I'm assuming because the second time I gave her roses, I actually went to the market that she loves, that we used to always walk around and just shop for things at. It was right down the street from her favorite store, so we used to just always pay the market a visit because they have little knickknacks in the front. So I'm guessing it's because I went to her favorite market. Maybe so she felt more of a connection to those flowers, or maybe it's because I actually brought them that time. So Kiana's like, what do you mean you actually brought them that time? Oh, are you thinking because you took the flowers from your home, maybe she didn't like the grievance flowers, but she liked the ones that you purchased? And Benjamin was like, well, no, actually, she provided the flowers the first time. And Kiana's like, really? How did she give you the flowers? I was walking to her gravesite. Then all of a sudden, right across from her was a fresh dozen roses sitting right there. She must have known I was going to forget because I was so nervous talking to a spirit. I wasn't that prepared. And Kiana's like, wait, you saw roses on the ground at a graveyard and you put them on your mother's tombstone? Well, yeah, but it wasn't on an actual tomb. I wouldn't do that. It was just laying there. Okay, that's a possibility. A little too magical just for some flowers to be there unclaimed at a graveyard, but okay, that could have happened. Benjamin, when is the next time you're going to visit your mom? And Benjamin says, I have some roses in the back of my car now. I was going to head over after work. And Kiana says, if you don't mind, can you take me with you and just show me what happened the first time? So Benjamin takes Kiana over to the gravesite where his mother is buried. So he's walking her through all the steps. Like, okay, right here, I put my hands in my pockets. I realized I didn't have any flowers. But then I'm thinking, hey, I'm a present enough. She likes me. She'll be happy. So then I keep on walking down. And then I see right over here, it was a fresh dozen roses just right here. See, there's nothing there. And then Kiana sees how he could have thought, okay, well, nothing's there. It must be some flowers from my mom to give to her because I was going to forget. But then she says, well, Benjamin, you see that there's a tombstone here to the right of it and a tombstone right here to the left of it. And you see how those two people have the same last name? And Benjamin's like, yeah, but there isn't a tombstone here. And this is where I took the flowers from. I didn't take it from them. I took it from right in the middle. Kiana's like, yes, because right in the middle, this is an unmarked grave. So Benjamin's thinking, it can't be because everybody else has a tombstone. They have a tomb. You see a tombstone everywhere else. And Kiana's like, well, not everybody can afford a tombstone when they're buried. Something could have happened to the first one where they're in the middle of replacing it. Or maybe they just didn't want one. You just never know. But this is an unmarked grave. That's why flowers were there, because they still have visitors coming. So Benjamin gets nervous. He starts to sweat because he's like, oh, I'm up here trying to dibble and dabble in the spiritual stuff. I done took from somebody's grave. So he's freaking out. And Kiana's like, let's go back to the market and get some roses. So they rush back over to the market. They get like 6 dozen roses. They bring them back to the gravesite. And she said, place them on this grave and apologize. So he's like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to visit my mama. And I was trying to visit my mama. And then I saw the roses here. But I didn't know the roses was yours. They would have never took the roses if I knew they were yours. So he's doing a whole apology. He's crying because he's nervous. And Kiana's like, po baby. But he's just going through the motions. And Kiana's like, do you have some money in your pocket? He was like, I just have the change left over from getting these expensive behind roses. She's like, dump it. Dump out all the money in your pocket. So he's dumping out coins and dollars. And Benjamin's like, is that it? Do I need to start bringing roses for my mom and this person too? She's like, no. Leave those roses there. This is going to sound crazy, but let's walk backwards out of this graveyard. So Benjamin didn't even ask no questions. He was like, sure, let's go. Walk backwards. I'm here. So Benjamin is being overly cautious now. He's trying to make sure when he's going to the grocery store, he's only picking up one thing at a time. He's making sure anytime he get a client, he's checking the portal twice, 2, 3 times. Like, he's paranoid because he's like, oh my gosh, when is this going to wear off? When is this going to be over? Like, what if they're still mad at me? What if I should have got 7 dozen, not 6 dozen? So he's still freaking out because he knew he did not intentionally take from that individual. He didn't even know who the person was. He didn't even know if he should go apologize to the family. He's like, oh my gosh, how did the family feel when they came back and they saw the roses were gone? They probably think I'm just some hijacker. He is just on a guilt trip. Not even a guilt trip, a guilt vacation. So he was kind of scared to go back to the gravesite for a while. So usually he was trying to visit his mother like once or twice a week. He went 2 weeks without seeing his mom because he was so scared to go back because he didn't know if the spirit was going to be there waiting on him all thugged out. He just didn't know what to expect because he now knows that he did something wrong. Finally gets the courage to go back and visit his mom because he's like, you know what? I already started this. I don't want to stop it. Let me just go back. He goes back to the gravesite and he notices there is a fresh dozen roses on his mother's tombstone. So immediately, Benjamin's a little emotional. Nothing wrong with that. He begins to cry because he felt like, okay, so whoever it was must have forgiven me. Just how those flowers appeared over there, now they're appearing over here. So maybe that's some type of witchy balance going on. Maybe we're in the clear now. So he then takes the roses that he meant to give to his mom and he puts it over to the other person's gravesite that he took before as like a thank you, or, you know, just make it. I don't know what he was thinking. He was like, okay, well, here you go. I'm going to give it back to you just to make sure his conscience and karma is clear. So this story took place in 2019. It's now going on 2024. So Kiana and Benjamin, they both wanted to share this story because they knew that they were close co-workers. Kiana introduced him to the spiritual world, and now he's much more into the spiritual realm now because he did a lot of more studying and communicating with his mother, just opened his eyes to a lot of stuff beyond the physical. So he's really into it now. Kiana has been teaching him a lot, especially now because now they're married. And guess what they did after their wedding? She took some flowers from her bouquet and she placed it on his mother's gravesite. How adorable. Love must be so nice. So let's go over this story on what I think happened. So I'm assuming since Benjamin accidentally, we'll say, took from a unmarked grave, I'm assuming that in the spiritual world he was considered a thief. So you guys know, as above so below. So they said, okay, you stole from us up here, we got to make sure you know that you have this title down here as well as a warning. That's why I feel like the spirit was kind of taking it easy on him because they knew he didn't do it intentionally. He's naive to the spiritual world. He thought his mom did some bibbity bobbity boo and made some roses appear and he took it. That's why I wanted to share this story as well, because I know a lot of times when we're getting started on our spiritual journey, you're starting doing your little spiritual rituals and spells, you're always thinking, oh my gosh, what if I make a mistake, or what if I do this wrong, or what if I do that wrong? I don't want to upset spirit. They go by your intention. If your intention is pure, that's all you need. That's why when we say you do your spell work and rituals, without intention, it's not going to work. So you can do a spell like, oh, I want to make some money, but if you're not into it, you're in a bad mood, you just really don't care, you don't think it's going to work, the ritual or spell isn't going to work because it's going based off of your intention. attention. So with him, I'm feeling like spirit genuinely knew, okay, this man does not know what he is doing. So let's take it easy on him and give him some warnings. He got his little spiritual friend over there, so she's going to make sure that he gets the message. But I feel like if he wasn't paying attention and just was going through the flow, those warnings would have gotten worse and worse. It would have been like you tried to hijack a car, they thought you was a thief. Like the warnings would have got more intense. That's why you shouldn't be worried about missing a message from spirit sometimes, because I know you guys hear like, oh, when spirit talks to you, you're just going to know. Like if you know, you're just going to know. Trust me. And it's genuinely like you're going to know, because spirit will tell you over and over and over and over until you get the message. So when you keep getting this message, you're just minding your business, then you hear a message, you're doing something else, you're hearing the message, that's from spirit. You're not thinking about it yourself, you're not talking to yourself. It's spirit communicating with you. But in general, I'm sure no one would do this, but sometimes I feel like thieves who just are used to thieving can get a little tempted, because sometimes people do leave very nice things on a gravesite. You may be like, wow, that's a nice necklace. Wow, they left the money. Wow, look at all that stuff on there. Wow, I want my cousin's burial site to look like theirs. Let me take some of their glitter. Don't take anything from a gravesite. I feel like that's common sense, but do not take it. Do not adjust it. Do not be like, oh, it fell, let me straighten it back up. No, leave it. Everything is how it's supposed to be. Let the graveyard keepers do what they have to do. That's their territory. Let them do their thing, but that's not your responsibility. There are plenty of consequences when it comes to taking from a gravesite. We'll go over a few. Y'all can list some more. But just know, if you take from spirit, the punishment will manifest in the spiritual realm and in the physical realm as well. Because you're not only taking from that spirit, you're taking from the person who placed that item there. You're taking from their intention. You don't know why they placed that item there. They probably needed a message or a confirmation, or was asking for something, or wanted to give a thank you. You interrupted that message. You did a whole interception because you wanted to take that offering. Don't take nothing. And that goes for altars too. You may go to someone's house, they may have a decked out altar. You see a bunch of hundreds of dollars of bills just sitting there. That's not your money. That's their spirit's money. That's their ancestors' money. Oh, I have an email for that one too. Let me pull it up and set it as a reminder. Taking food items off of an altar. Did I do that one? Did I do that story about the person took food off of... I believe I did that story about the man who took food items off of an altar. Did I do that story? I got that email a long time ago. I believe I did. Can y'all let me know if I did that story? Did I do that story? Also, with everything spiritual, you guys know everything is an energy, everything is a vibration, everything is flowing. So when you take something that was meant to go to spirit, you interrupted the flow. So now you have to face the consequences. You have to face the consequences worse of the good that person was going to get for giving the offering. So just take that goodness, flip it, make it horrible, times it by 3, and give it to yourself. You are going to pay on the front end, and you are going to pay on the back end. They say respect the dead for a reason. Don't talk bad about the dead for a reason, because that energy is still listening to you and they still have access to you. So don't take from them as well. Also, never go to, I wouldn't say never, depending on the relationship you have with the person, keep doing what you do when you visit whoever that you visit at a gravesite, but try not to go empty handed. Even if you just drop 3 pennies at the entryway to pay the guardian, you're on sacred ground. So you want to make sure you pay those spirits, because of course you're visiting one person, but you're around different spirits as well. So you want to make sure you're paying respect to everyone. That's why people sometimes drop money at the entrance. And that's why sometimes if you go to a gravesite, if you look around the entry gate, you'll probably see some coins sitting there, because a lot of people pay respect to the dead. But when they were driving in, they'll throw some money out the window, or walking in, they'll throw some money on the side just to pay the spirit, whoever they may be, considering that spirit the guardian of the gravesite. For some of us, I believe most of us, we would consider it to be Oya, because she is known to be over the gates of the cemetery, and mother of the 9, or mother of the Igun, mother of the dead. So some will give an offering to her because they're walking into her territory. So it just depends on who you pay respect to. Don't switch up your whole thing. Whatever you have, you got working, let it work. I would love to go over specifics that will happen if you take from the dead, but it just depends on your life. So wherever they can squeeze through to cause chaos, that's what they are going to do. You're going to pay the consequences. Just how you must obey spirit, you must pay spirit, you must respect spirit as well. So just know, obey, pay, respect. Respect, obey, pay. We'll put it in that order. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you have any weird encounters with spirituality, any stories that you want to share, make sure you email me. I have my email listed below. Or let me know in the comments, did you have any weird encounters with visiting grave sites? Did you accidentally take from an unmarked grave or off of an altar before because you thought it was a bowl of candy, but it was a whole altar sitting there and you done took a peppermint? Any type of interactions like that, let me know down below. Also, let me know if you had any accidental mistakes that you made in spirituality and spirit kind of gave you a slap on the wrist just to warn you, just to ease anybody else's mind who are scared of going to spirituality because they feel like they're going to do something wrong. As long as your heart and your intention is good, just let it flow. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Like I always say, as above so below, as within so without, as universe so the soul. Until next time, you guys, Ashe, baby. BlaqueWitchYaya.